My name is Erinch Sahan. I'm the business and enterprise lead at Doughnut Economics Action Lab. That means my job is to take this donut, which represents the relationship between humans and our living planet, and figure out what this means for business. At its simplest, it's a compass for human prosperity. So it tells us that it's a new way of thinking about ourselves with the two concentric circles. So the outer concentric circle saying this is the boundaries of our planet that we cannot go beyond, and we are currently in huge overshoot. And the inner concentric circle, which is telling us the basic needs of everybody on our planet, which we are currently in shortfall of. So it's a way of looking at those two boundaries and saying that by being within those two boundaries, this is our new compass for human prosperity. It's an aspiration, and I think it has its origins, I think, in the corporate world, which saw that things need to move. There are significant differences between what we think when we look at the donut and we look at what needs to happen for the world to transform itself and transform its economies, what that means for the business world. And it feels like they're different but complementary actions that we're talking about than what I'm seeing and hearing from those that are most engaged on net positive. Think, okay, what are the actions we need, right? Like to get in the donut, to reverse that picture you're seeing in the top right. And part of those actions will come from the state and the commons, society, charities, etc. So many parts of the world, but part will need to come from business. And currently, the actions and the solutions that can be pursued by business are in this quadrant. So whether it's the narrative I read from Net Positive, whether it's the narrative I read from lots of people working on sustainability, corporate sustainability, they're saying, look, you can make more money. This is long-term thriving. This is long-term profit maximization. So it's true. There are lots of solutions that fall in that overlap between what do we need from society, from business, and what is possible for business to do while they pursue maximum profits. But if we can kind of, broaden out the design of enterprise so that it isn't designed purely to pursue those actions that lead to maximum profits, then we broaden out the possibilities of solutions. And what I'm talking about here on the left are they're not loss-making interventions. We have to look at the deep design of business. We can't just plead with businesses to do the right thing, or say, do the right thing as long as it also is making you more money by doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. That it's we need a broader set. We need those as well, but we also need to go, okay, let's broaden the possibilities. And that means we have to get rid of the dinosaur organizational design structures of the 20th century, that weren't designed for the world that we have, which is a world in planetary crisis and, spiraling inequality. To pursue the mindset shift, to even allow or tolerate a mindset shift, that they need to get out of the shackles of the structure, which is designed to prevent that mindset shift. The quarterly reporting, the ownership model, the shareholder returns expectations, the ownership, the way accountability works, the way CEOs are trained, the way that they're recruited, and the way they're held to account by boards, the way that the term sheet of venture capital decides on what can happen and must happen. And there are structural limits that actually won't allow that mindset shift. I think our perspective is we have to push the conversation to structural organizational features, which are uncomfortable. You're talking about money, you're talking about control and power, you're talking about who's in the room, and there's a lot of discomfort there. I mean, none of these solutions are loss-making. So we need to be distinguish between profitable and maximum profit. And then we need to distinguish between what happens with the profit and the maximum extraction of profit. So there's to what extent profit is playing a role in the decisions into, do we shift to modular? Do we shift our production model? Do we go to natural fibers? Do we decide to move to services? And all the different decisions we need to make, paying a living wage, sharing value more equitably, like long-term commitment to community, all of those micro decisions. The number one force acting on them is to what extent it has an impact on profit, growing or reducing it. So it interacts in that way, but also then interacts with, well, then what happens to the profit? Can it be reinvested into those solutions? Can it go into R&D? Can it be put into people, and can it be put into communities, and can it enable you to then The following year, do something that's maybe much less profitable because this year you've done well. The design of the current corporate structures on both those, both the accumulation and distribution dash use of profit, are massively limiting what's possible, which is why most of the things are staying in the niche. If you had a different enterprise design model, like we're seeing in lots of sectors now in different ways, but not at the scale and size that we need, you would have had the transformation years ago. But because we've never talked about it and we've left that one alone and it's uncomfortable, we've kind of just ignored the fact that it's the elephant in the room that holds back most of these decisions. Well, I think we begin by realizing there isn't going to be like a single external answer to be provided to a business to go, here's your goal, here's your accountability, here's the trade-off, here's how you navigate it. But you build the organizational structures that can navigate these complicated trade-offs. So you don't have a board that is only representing investors. You know, there are these multi-stakeholder, I mean, companies like River Simple, I showed a little slide, a little picture on the bottom right. It's got a custodianship board structure. You know, it's a hydrogen car company that has got like Mother Nature as a representative on the board. I mean, I've been in the job for 6 months, and until then, Doughnut Economics hadn't really gone in that direction of applying to business yet. So we're developing a toolkit for all business, and we've been doing workshops with companies around the world of all sizes and descriptions, and some listed companies. We've been working with them on their enterprise design, some other privately owned companies and family businesses and social enterprises, and everyone's on a bit of a journey. So we're developing a toolkit. There are a couple of articles. There's one that I wrote recently that was on My Green Pod, a most recent version of My Green Pod that explains this a little bit better. And then we've got a talk from Kate, a talk from me that's on YouTube. But to be honest, the best is yet to come.